my typical data usage. It's pretty reliable. So I get Sprint and T-Mobile towers.
Yeah. That text now is supposed to be on Sprint. It's supposed to be a Sprint network.
Well, Republic's added other networks too. They're not just Sprint anymore. I think their service has improved.
The
Damn.
weirdest thing on this thing is like the Google Wi-Fi assistant. That seems to just kick in whenever it wants to. I'm not entirely sure what the criteria is yet. It's like supposedly it's supposed to if I find a network that fits a certain criteria, I'm going to automatically connect to it VPN and everything, and you can use this as your data.
Huh.
It does that occasionally, and I'm still not sure what the criteria is. I typically just use my own VPN because I haven't found it to be that reliable. But
My phone used to connect to any open Wi-Fi network anywhere, and then one of the updates came along and it stopped doing that. Now I have to actually go and tell it to connect to something. I used to love it when it was just connecting. You're driving down the highway or something, you get email.
I've just been using I've just been assuming it won't kick in. And I just go ahead and connect to a Wi-Fi and use VPN. But every once in a while, it'll find something. I'm
Those
like,
are not chargeable.
No.
You guys
Okay.
ain't chargeable.
And
Put them in there, blow it up.
Oh,
one of the updates
blow
came
up
along and
figuratively, but just
stopped
make it
mine from
mess.
doing that. I don't know what the update was.
Yeah, they get messy.
If I knew what the update was, I probably would go and say, no. I actually liked that feature.
what do I think about it? What is it using?
AARP dental insurance is $32 a month. And the maximum
It
you can use
is
is $1,000 a year.
Chrome
And a crown.
Okay, fine. That's
And a crown is $1,200.
fair enough. I'm
Okay,
doing that
can
on
you
purpose.
get in anytime? Get out anytime?
I don't
So
know.
it's nothing that's
That's what they were
sitting in
saying
the
you could do.
background and that I'm
I
not
don't think you can.
monitoring.
Okay, this is a few years back.
They're doing it.
50% of the crown.
I thought it would be more.
So you get a crown, the $100. It's about £1 a year.
Oh, okay.
Can you?
Oh, this could be mine.
What is
Now
that?
I got my name on the other one.
Now that you got your name on the other
Well,
one.
actually, it could be both of them, actually, but that's another story.
If I've got
That's what.
GitHub repository already set up, can I also set up a Bitbucket repository in the same, off of the same,
Like, what do you mean by off of the same?
like, set up two remote repositories in the same?
Oh, remote repositories for the same repository on your computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time. It's because, well, actually, that's not true anymore, is it?
I don't know, because when I tried it,
so
it told me
historically,
Origin
so
had already
typic-
existed or something.
Typically, it doesn't have to be Origin.
Okay.
There's nothing special about the name Origin.
Okay.
You just call it Origin just because that's what it's typically is. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it, like, typically, I'll have Origin as a Bitbucket, and like I'll just name GitHub.
Okay.
But you don't have to do that. I mean, I've done that because it used to be that Bitbucket had unlimited private repositories, and GitHub had to pay for private repositories.
Right.
So I have all my private repositories on Bitbucket, and then when I eventually wanted to like stick it like put it to a GitHub repository somewhere, I would just do that, and I would just have two remotes. Basically, you just have two remotes in the same one. Now, if you want to update both of them, you got to push to one then the other.
Okay.
But yeah, sure, fine. I mean, nothing particularly wrong with it.
So,
As long as you don't get confused.
so my problem probably was I was just trying to call it something that already existed.
You were trying to call it Origin?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to call it Origin. You can call one Bitbucket and one GitHub,
Whatever.
if that makes sense to you.
Call one 1 and 1 2.
Yeah. The only actually okay, there is one special thing about Origin. If you clone a repository, it's the default name.
Okay.
That's the only thing that's special about it.
Okay.
So typically Origin is your main dev one, and whatever else you name is secondary. It's just the naming convention. You can use whatever you want. Actually, it especially doesn't matter because no one else is going to see what your remote name is. It's really for your use only.
Okay.
You need a longer cord?
No, I need the bottom hole rather than the top hole.
Oh. Well, you probably could kill our Chromecast
Sure.
for a couple seconds.
Swap it out. We don't care. We'll reconnect.
Oh! You done killed it.
Oh, man.
Information Technology Club.
It's his router that's not
Oh.
plugged into anything.
Okay.
Wow, observation. Good observation you got going.
I'll start plugging that into the top outlet from now on.
Well, I'm only gonna be here next week after that I'm back to California.
Oh!
So like, if you have like, hold on, what was I going to say?
I don't.
Yeah, you can actually deploy from your Git repository if you want to. Like if you have everything set up in the web server and you have a certain like directory you want to put all your website code in, you can just what you do is you set up an SSH key and then like you add that as a deploy key.
Okay.
That thing only only has like retrieval permissions. It can't write. So
Right.
what you use that and you pull.
Okay. See, that actually makes sense too. I figured there had to be a way to do it, and it just, I got to that point where I just got frustrated. It was just like, why isn't this working? Why does it keep telling me this?
Oh, also, if you, and I don't typically do this, but you can do it where it's like you can have some branches push to one repo and some push to another repo. I typically haven't done that.
Oh, you got your router today? You don't need 7?
I guess it would make sense if they were
Okay.
different phases. Like maybe you have one branch that is production or something, and that goes.
Yeah. Yeah,
But you can't.
I could sort of see some
There's my router.
use for that, maybe.
Do you have,
What
physical
I
cords?
really like is, have you tried
I
using
need
log
physical cords.
between branches?
thanks for, anyway,
So what you can do is like if
let's do this.
commands like diff or
Yeah,
log,
yeah.
you can actually apply them to 2 different branches. So what you do is the branch name one branch name, no spaces, dot, and another branch name.
Okay.
And what it does is that it compares the second one to the first one, and like whatever's not in the first one but in the second one is what shows up. So what I do, like if I have a branch that's production, one that's
That one
staging,
is just like mine.
when I write up my
Yeah.
patch notes,
Okay.
I'll do a log,
This is,
this one and that one. Then that's all the changes of these 2.
Definitely,
And I use those to quickly write up my patch notes.
The low price spread. so
Oh,
to
yeah.
speak.
Okay.
And also diff. Like I'll just do a log and a diff between those 2. And
As
before I
of
merge it in, I'll have
An hour
patch
ago,
notes
a
written
little
up.
over an hour ago, it worked, so
Working's good.
it worked. There's, one of the
I've
criteria
got
for
some
goodness or badness.
very old code that I wrote 6, 7 years ago. Probably longer than that.
The more
And I found it the other day, and I thought, oh, this would be. People actually used it a long time ago.
Really?
But it was never up on any website anywhere. So I thought,
Might as well.
I do.
this would be something good. And I
Well,
put
is it a
it.
project or is it a? If it's just kind of a blur, it might actually be better as a snippet.
No, it actually was a huge project. It actually still works, but I haven't done any develop on it in probably 2 years.
I actually don't have any current
So,
large projects on public
minimum
GitHub
demo.
right now. Most of what I have is snippets
That's
from like various
Yeah.
things.
Well,
I have like a bunch of private repos.
I was going to put it on Bitbucket just because of its age, and I use GitHub more for stuff that I'm working on. So I was just going to stick it in Bitbucket just so people could find it if they wanted it.
I think the other way around would be better.
You think the other way around?
Because I know more people use GitHub than Bitbucket,
Yeah.
or at least publicly use
That's
GitHub
metal.
than Bitbucket. So usually I put everything I want to put out there on GitHub, and then anything else.
Do you want
Need
to
a
see if
second
you can
repo
see
for
an
it.
SSID starting with TP link?
TP link underscore 62C.
Yeah, you got it. TP hyphen.
TP hyphen link underscore 062C.
You got it.
Uppercase everything.
Where I missed part of the conversation because I was busy talking. Where'd this
Pay
come from?
attention, Jim.
Pay attention.
Yeah, Jim.
Jim?
It's usually me, isn't it? We use the same phrase. That's a 15 kilogram torque.
15 kilogram.
15 kilogram torque.
Oh, torque.
Torque. So 15 kilograms is supposed to be like 30 pounds. That explains why it's metal.
It's nice.
Yeah. So
15 kilogram centimeters or what?
I don't know.
Torque is measured in
Yeah. But that
force times.
it's probably centimeters.
I don't know if it's MPS or
That came-
CGS.
That's one of yours?
Well, the kilograms would be yeah. Yeah, these are a little.
The MPS.
Had to pay more than $10 for that, but it's got a lot of torque. So that's going to be steering on the TCT.
Oh, okay.
And here's I'm using a torsion spring. Well, I'll probably do this next week if nobody's got anything. Make me do it. It'll be Arduino and this. The spring is like a clock spring that's flat. It's got a coil and it's got a flat place in the middle. And it's got an arm that sticks out 4 inches. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that next week. How you doing? You getting it? Getting it set?
I'm just booting up now, but yes. Well, that's strange. Oh,
So what I'm going to do is set up on the tongue of the wagon a piece of wood with a V in the middle of it, straight up. And I'm going to stick that spring right in the middle of it. And if I go this way, the spring will push this way. If I go that way, the spring will push that way. But if somebody moves the tongue, the spring will absorb the shock, the stress, without trying to snap the metal gears out of the little thing. But it's amazing that 15 kilogram centimeters is still 5 volt. It's probably, well, they've
you
got
gotta
the
draw
50.
some current.
It does. It can't. Look at the wires on it. That's 4 wires there. The wires would smoke. It's probably geared very high, but it's not terribly slow. I have to look at the specs on that. But it doesn't matter if it's slow for me.
This is one of those where you drive with PWM,
No, voltage.
straight on voltage.
Yep, 0 to 5.
That's strange.
Yeah, that's what most of them are these days. These cheapos are voltage, and I guess they have circuitry in here.
Yeah, there's a little circuit in.
Yeah.
All the ones I've taken apart have a little circuit in them. And a ton of gears. There's
And this is
thousands of
only
gears in
180 degrees, which is ideal for what I'm doing.
Okay, if you point your smartphone at, what this it was, TP-link_062C, and go to /index.php, the browser. Let me make sure it's working.
Okay, I'm connected to that. Now,
You have a website?
I have a browser.
Well, I understand you have a browser, but you should have a site with some buttons on it. Let's see, 192.
You would tell me where that is in my world.
6.
In my little world, of course, we know how that works.
100. Oh, it's 111. All right, let me give you the IP address. It is 192.168.11.100.
11.100. You got even wilder than you were the other day.
Okay, when you come
192.
I have buttons.
Dot 168.
like Flash, GPIO, et cetera, et cetera.
Dot 11. Dot what?
Yes.
Okay.
Dot 11.100.
Okay. If you click on the, or tap, as the case may be, on the scan GPIO on your watch over here, somebody did, obviously.
That's Leroy.
Woohoo! It's doing stuff.
Okay.
Move your coffee cup so I can see what it's doing.
Let me see if I got enough.
There, it's doing stuff.
I did. I stopped you and restarted you.
Yeah, there is no.
There's no filter for knuckleheads. I know.
Well, I wouldn't have put it that way, but however you want to do it.
Something like
It might be appropriate in this case.
All right, so if you stop that, in other words, click Stop Scan GPIO, like
I
that.
clicked it.
All
There it
right,
goes.
now go to same IP address, index 01.php, and you'll get the winch.
And what is it? Okay, index 01. What are you talking about? :01 or
No,
the address 01?
IP address 192.168.11.100 /index 01.php. Find it, Leroy?
There it goes. Except I didn't get any.
Oh, I got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it
Winch
says
up, winch
red,
stop,
blue.
winch down.
Huh.
It's oh yeah, winch up 1, winch 1 up.
Yeah. Winch 1 down.
Winch 1 stop, winch 1 out, winch 1 out,
Winch 1
There it
down.
goes.
winch 1 down. Okay,
Okay, did you notice what happened there?
up, down,
Okay, so you got
up,
two different
up.
stop, just stops it. So you got two different GPIO pins there. And we've got 4 winches on this project, so you can just use 2 different GPIO pins for each winch.
Should winch 1 up continue?
No, on this, when you click winch 1 up, it turns it on and it stays on.
Oh, okay.
No flashing involved.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's up and down. Okay, gotcha.
And if you go to 2, you get the same thing.
And stop is turn it off. Okay. Winch 1 up. Winch 2 up.
Yeah.
Okay.
and winch 2 down is the 4th LED. Okay? All right, now, next next website is exactly the same as this, except the 01 gets replaced with a 03.
Holy cow. Look at all the stuff on
Yeah.
What is going on?
I only got that much junk. I guess I can scroll. No, that's it. That's all I got
on 03?
on 03.
All right, what you've got here is 28 individual GPIO pins that you can toggle up, you can toggle on or off, and if you want to turn them all off, you click the black bar at the bottom.
The black, imaginary black bar at the bottom.
Turn it sideways.
People tell me that all along, but no.
I'm flashing a bunch of LEDs over here.
Yeah, so I noticed. Now, if I push that,
Music.
Oh, he killed me.
you see, the black bar kills everybody. It is the universal anecdote, or antidote, not anecdote.
Well, thanks.
So when you click one of those, it starts that particular GPIO pin flashing, and it's a 200 millisecond flash, as I recall. So what happens here, each of these websites consists of some PHP code, which allows you to select each of those particular buttons. And each of those PHP code lines connects to a little C program executable, which I've written. So I've written a C program executable for each one of those pins. The Raspberry Pi 3 has 28, it has a total of 40 pins. It has 28 addressable pins that can be either input or output. It has 8 grounds. It has, I believe, one 5-volt and one 3.3 volts. Should add, the numbers I'm telling you should add up to 40, and for some reason I'm missing one. But in any case, you only have 28 pins that are in fact addressable.
Okay.
So this screen allows you to address individual pins, and it calls a program in each case that flashes the thing 200 millisecond on, 200 millisecond off, and so forth and so on. So this is just an exercise, okay? This is an exercise to show how you address the pins with a website. You can do this with, obviously, with Windows. You can do it with OS 10. You can do it with Linux. And if you could find a browser for, you know, the language or the particular operating system, you can address it. So that is, and what I've got here is a router that goes to no place. It basically just allows us to talk within the wireless range in this room here. So it allows you each to grab a particular, you know, grab this site and, you know, annoy each other by pushing the buttons. Okay.
Which we have demonstrated thoroughly, yes.
Yes. I have specifically shut off the WPA on this router. It could be obviously enabled. The default case is it's enabled. But then you'd have to enter the key, each of it, and life is too short, I didn't want to go through that tonight. I've had enough trouble in my life getting people to get passwords and keys, right? In general, I avoid that.
About so I guess you're pretty much almost set up. I guess from this you can pretty much set up like a little API or something if you wanted.
Little what?
Like little API or something if you wanted like an
Well,
external application to control it.
Yeah, you are, but here I'm demonstrating how simple it is to do it just with you don't need any Android code, you don't need any iOS code, you don't need any special code. You just use a browser. It is a browser-enabled application, and if you can get to the website for this particular router, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have not assigned this thing, hooked it up to the internet, and then assigned it a DNS. The last thing I want is a zillion hackers coming in and flipping my LEDs.
It would be entertaining. You have an entertainment tool here.
Well, you're probably right. You are probably right, okay? But the key point is here, this allows you essentially to throw a contact. So from here, it's simply a matter of either putting an N-channel FET or a small relay or whatever, and you can control your garage door or whatever. There's no security on this. Now, I could have set it up with HTTPS, but again, I didn't want to go through the grief of getting everybody to,
Username, password, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Connect with secure. Okay, yeah, we see that. Yeah,
and you could set it up more as a more sophisticated situation where you put passwords on each of the LEDs and so forth and so on, or assign them to a particular MAC address so that you do MAC filtering coming in. There's an awful lot of things you can do, but that's just demoing. I'm sorry?
You're kind of already like most of the way to like having sort of a web service essentially.
Well, this has a web server on it. There's a web server on that. There's an Apache web server on that Raspberry Pi 3. That's how this works. There's an Apache web server, Apache 2 web server on that, which I have then written these three files, index.php, index01.php, and index.3php, which are sitting under var /HTML/ and so you can do as many of those as you want. None of these are set up for any kind of security whatsoever. Security
That
could be added, but for the purpose of the demo, there was no point.
Yeah, if you have connection security, it'd be easy to set up security on it, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, it's the only reason that I didn't was to save my. Pardon?
Then you'd have to host it somewhere and then get a server.
Well, not even. I could do it locally, but the problem is that I didn't want to go through the grief of people having difficulty connecting. That's the reason I killed the WPA key also. I just said, all right.
If you self-signed, then like everybody would have to make an exception for it.
Well, that's true.
That would be painful.
I don't know how painful that is. It's a click, second click. Even in Windows, it's not that painful. At any rate, so that's the demo.
Okay. If you're going to market this,
I wasn't planning to.
Well, just talking about marketing something like this, they make I/O that's I2C, discrete I/O that's I2C, be very easy just to plug I2C in there, and I would assume to run I2C, and it would be, you could buy commercially available I/O, and it would be simple. instead of having to wire the stuff.
Yeah, it's simply a question of costs and alternatives and so.
Yeah, and wiring it, if you're gonna sell it, you wouldn't wanna push that out the door.
No,
But you see how nice that would be if you're selling it, do a I2C IO package with the
Yeah.
relays already mounted. Oh man, talk about
Yeah.
it. Look nice, simple,
you can do that.
idiot proof. Well, I wouldn't, maybe not
Well,
idiot.
I don't know about that. I have never discovered anything that's truly idiot proof. Maybe I've known a premier selection of idiots over the years.
I've run across a few premium ones myself. I mean, besides myself. Yeah, these have 3 wires:
Yeah,
red, black, and orange.
yeah,
Orange is the voltage.
yeah. So these work off a drive voltage rather than a pulse width modulation.
Right. These work off 5 volts.
Yeah, I know, but so do the some of the PWM.
Stepper motor types.
Pardon?
The stepper types.
Well, I'm not sure those are actually steppers, but the point is that they run off a percentage of PWM. So if you run them directly off an Arduino channel, all you've got to do is put it on channel. First of all, it supports PWM, and there's 6 of those. And then, depending on whether you write anything from 0 to 1024, you get different angles.
Yeah. Well, we actually have done some PWMs too. Yeah, we have done. So it might be.
Those are kind of nice for robotic arms and that sort of thing.
Simple. Our built-in code for the Arduino. Either one.
Yeah, the code is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's one line, analog write, blah, 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 go. So, at any rate, that's what I got here for tonight. I'm still working on getting the Raspberry Pi to function as its own router.
I saw an article on the Raspberry Pi 2 being
Yeah.
a router for use when you want to have clandestine operations, apparently.
Is that Jacob, what's his name?
I don't know, I saw something today. It was off my Google News.
The one that is usually quoted is Jacob somebody or another. He does a whole bunch of Raspberry Pi stuff, but the most recent one he's done is a Tube B+. He's the same one who's developed the concept of the pi hole, which is the black hole filter. You've seen that, right?
I have seen that.
Okay.
I see all kinds of stuff.
But at any rate, the idea is you somehow or another hook it into your router, and then if any one of a few 100,000 domains shows up, it gets dumped into a black hole someplace or another.
One of the things I see, one of the problems that's obvious with the Raspberry Pi is they're changing stuff relatively rapidly.
Well, but you have the same problem with any technology, you know.
Yeah, and that's true. We had the same thing with the Arduino when they came out with their version 1 IDE, which was a step backwards from their previous version.
Well, the problem with the Arduino IDEs has been that they are not backward compatible. For example, they got rid of byte as a type, and that was a mistake.
It's
It
weird.
screwed up a whole bunch of legacy code that people had sitting out there. I've still got a Oregon Scientific temperature measuring device. It's a wireless temperature measuring device, and it communicates with the central unit with a Manchester encoded pulse stream, very short pulse stream. And there were all kinds, in version 1, there were all kinds of publications online. This code will work, just plug it in and go. Problem was it wouldn't compile with anything past something like 0.06 IDE. And the reason it wouldn't is they changed a whole bunch of types. So, you know, a little discipline is in order in that situation.
Sounds like they need a new versioning scheme.
Well,
The problem you have with one of the disadvantages of open source is that you don't have some ogre like Microsoft defining all the rules. So, you know,
Well, that's why you have a good versioning scheme.
at any rate.
And they're shoot from the hip kind of organization anyway, so
Who?
Arduino.
I don't know about that. They're pretty.
Based on their code variations, I'd say their IDE output and getting rid
Yeah,
of
but the
byte.
IDE and the hardware are two different things. So they're two different groups.
Yeah.
So,
To me, it looks like one group that's messing up the IDE.
well, okay.
I think each revision of the IDE has actually gotten better, but they've dropped support for legacy code.
Right. They do not maintain support for legacy
Yeah.
code. That's
Yeah, they
And that's a big that's a problem when there's millions of legacy code floating around.
That's the trouble with low margin products. This is low end product.
Okay, so like the IDE is one thing that should change, but like, why would the IDE break legacy code? Because the IDE doesn't have anything to do with.
Well, okay,
Well, I can tell you specifically what it did.
yeah.
They redefined a bunch of types. Going from one version to the next version of the IDE, they redefined a bunch of types.
They've decided that some of the code doesn't work well for certain
That seems
things.
to be a library thing. Well, I
Well,
guess
there are
I guess
libraries.
I guess that is a thing with the Arduino IDE because they meld all that together, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, you call up individual libraries.
Yeah, but can you call up individual versions of said libraries?
I don't know about the actual Arduino library anymore, but
Never tried
you
that.
can, with the new IDE, you can go in and tell it that you want to use a different version of a third-party library.
Oh, yeah.
I think that might be the way to go for as far as like long-term support for a certain dependency set.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could do that and say, I want to use version 1.0 IDE
That's what I
library.
mean, I guess the reason they kind of like, I guess it's a bit of a conflicting thing because like the Arduino IDE is supposed to be, you know, like start up, get started, go simple.
But see, and that's my own opinion. That's part of the problem. They change stuff. They've advertised it for people who don't understand code. They don't understand electronics, and then they go and change it, and then people go, "Why is it broken?" And only people that understand code can tell you why it's broken.
Well, you have to understand what the purpose of the Arduino was to begin with. It was a teaching tool.
Yeah.
It was not designed to support, you know, production product and so forth and so on.
Right.
It was a teaching tool. It's a bunch of code which is cobbled together so that undergraduates could get up and running without going through the discouragement of 6 months worth of learning code before they could make a light blink. They can sit down, the first class,
Anyway.
pardon?
I mean, kind of weird because like you end up learning code anyway. Not only that, it's like
Well, I ended up learning code, but I already had an understanding
like
of what
most
was
of the
going on.
simplification is sort of the setup type thing, which is frustrating.
Well, the other thing,
Setting up for AppML development is a pain in the rear.
the other thing you have to realize is that when it went outside of the academic environment, it targeted artists.
Yeah.
People who were building artistic.
That's what I mean. People who don't understand code.
People who don't understand code. So the idea is just to
The original IDE was geared towards people who didn't understand code. The newer IDEs are starting to become more code.
More sophisticated.
Yeah.
And what happens when that happens, and there are millions of valid reasons for it to happen, absolutely, is that the knuckleheads, the code doesn't work anymore. I guess you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you don't change your code to support most sophisticated stuff, you're going to get left behind. And if you do, you're going to break some of the neophytes' brains that are trying to.
There are ways to handle that, but it's like that. But in order to handle that, it's like again, it is a bit of conflicting because like the IDE tries to abstract away the very things that you would use to handle that sort of issue.
Parallax, I think they handled it pretty well in their IDE for their basic stamp. You actually told the IDE which version of the basic stamp you were using, and then it would compile for that particular.
Well, you do that with the Arduino too. If you look at the,
yeah,
you indicate the hardware.
But what Parallax was doing was also looking at the code versions, the revisions.
Yeah.
So if each new successful, I could take any code and just plug it in and tell it that it was going to be running on this particular device.
The Parallax people were actually making money, though. Arduino, I don't know if they really made money, per se.
Well, I think they're self-supporting. And that's all they need to be. They're in academia, they're self-supporting.
It is a consequence of abstracting away the build process, basically. Because if you're, I mean, typically, I guess on an actual production project, you wouldn't abstract away the build process. You would actually have a manifest or something of your dependencies that you would load at the point where you need to build.
Yeah.
But, perhaps there needs to be like a functionality to handle that sort of thing.
Well, it's a question of cost and alternative and staff and so forth and so on. You're talking about, half a dozen graduate students here, and it's not the same as Microsoft.
Well, it can already do it. It's just like it's in there somewhere. But it's more. I guess it's more of a matter of like how much do you expose, and does that kind of make things confusing?
Well, it's all exposed actually because it's open source. You can go in there at the code level and rewrite it however you want to, and a lot of people have done that. But this is not a task to be turned on somebody living in Greenwich Village who wants a flashing sign. So, at any rate. And one of the advantages of the Arduino over the Raspberry Pi is you have analog input and you have PWM output, which approximates analog output. 1/6 of the pins. So, you can handle analog signals, whereas you got to put an external board, a hat or whatever, on the Raspberry Pi in order to handle that. You can write your own code to output PWM, but you got a bigger challenge if you're trying to get analog input. So.
I guess really, if you're trying to get analog input like that, maybe you wouldn't be using a Pi to begin with, or at least not at that side of the project.
Well, analog input, you use analog input on Arduino projects all the time.
But like you probably use the Arduino at like the device in order to like handle the thing, and then you use the other one for control. Well, no, in reverse. I mean, the other one could be called control. Okay, I'm getting the terms mixed up.
I can build a whole controller out of an Arduino and have basically you have some sort of a sensor, whether it be a temperature sensor, a humidity sensor, or a Hall device or whatever, and you use that as your input, and then you respond with some kind of an output. And that's what I use when I'm teaching industrial control systems, is using a very fundamental single board controller to build a closed loop control system. The advantage of the Arduino is since it's open hardware, you can build your own cheapo version, whereas you don't have open hardware on the Raspberry Pi. I assume the people out there that are hacking it, but it is closed hardware.
Is it?
Yep. You aren't going to find somebody publishing the printed circuit boards and the component values and so forth and so on for the Raspberry Pi. You will, the Arduino, all that stuff is readily available.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not badly mistaken, that your problem with your garage door and the security system is easily solved on the Raspberry Pi, because you got a quad-core processor there and so forth and so on, and you got plenty of memory. Whereas on the Arduino, it's a problem because you got to shoehorn the whole mess into very small memory.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Part of, well, Frank had already done it on the Arduino, or yeah, he did it on the Arduino and then moved it over to ESP8266, which does have more memory, but still doesn't have security like that. And he wasn't that concerned with it, and it was something that I wanted to see.
Oh, I understand. It's an intellectual challenge. Okay.
It's one of those things. Can we do something to make it a little bit more secure and still keep it small like that? He would. I think. Of course, the Raspberry Pi Zero is $5 if you can find one. So, cost-wise that's not bad once you get it hooked up and programmed and everything. But I think
how much RAM do you have on the Zero?
I think it's 512. I think it's very similar. It's got the same I/O pin the 3 has or the 2 has, but it's much closer to like the A.
But the
A+.
limitation on the Arduino is the amount of RAM you've got.
Yeah.
And so how much RAM do you have on the Raspberry Pi Uno?
On the Zero?
Or Zero RAM?
I think it's 512.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's much, much closer related to like the Raspberry Pi A.
Okay.
Uh, but I think part of the reason why we went with, or why Frank did the Arduino in the first place was cost. I mean, we could find, from China, you can find Arduino boards for like under $3.
Yeah.
So, and
You
then
wait a
those,
while for them, but yes, you can.
and then
No, you're right.
and then those ESP8266. I found a place here in the States that was selling them for under $5. So
Now, do
cheap.
they have their own IDE?
No, they use the Arduino IDE,
Okay.
as a matter of fact.
So you're writing in either C or C++ in effect.
Yeah. The 8266s can run something called, what is that called? Node.js? Is that what it's called?
You're telling the story. I don't know.
Wait,
Node.js?
what runs Node? Is the Raspberry Pi Zero?
No, the
No.
8266. It runs Lua. It learns Lua. LAU.
That's an operating system or?
It was a language.
It's a language.
Lua.
LAU. I don't mess with it.
LAU.
Every time I get one of them, I flash it with stuff that's Arduino compatible. So I don't mess with it, but it will run other languages. And there's a couple of projects. There was a Python variant that somebody was running on one of them, and there was, I think Node.js was, somebody was running Node on one of them.
How many I/O pins does it have?
It depends on which version you get, like 12, maybe.
Now, are there any analog I/O? Strictly digital.
I think it's got, I think the bigger one does have a pulse width modulation.
Well, that's easy. You can do that programmatically, actually.
Yeah, you can.
As long as you use interrupt-driven pulses, you're okay.
Yeah, this servo does say digital servo steering, so it may be PWM.
Okay, yeah, it supports Lua and Node MCU.
Yeah.
Lua?
Lua.
Lua, it's a scripting language.
L-U-A.
Find it.
LAU.
LUA.
LUA.
L-U-A?
Did my dyslexia kick in and I get it
Yeah,
backwards?
it's Lua.
Lua, and what was the other one?
The other one is apparently has Node MCU installed default.
Yeah, Node
JavaScript.
MCU, which is JavaScript. And
That works. I didn't actually check out how that works because like I know regular nodes running a Chromium engine. I'm pretty sure they're not running a Chromium engine. And I think they probably have some sort of like maybe compile step or something.
So
I'm not actually sure
who
how
builds
that
this thing?
works. What?
Who builds this board?
the Chinese.
Well, that's kind of generic, okay.
Yeah, so is the word.
I think that narrows it down to roughly 1/7 of the world's population, okay?
It's like such a generic board.
So is this something that is strictly available in China, or is it available? And I'm assuming it is not open source.
No, I don't know if it's open source or not. I know that there's a ton of things that use it now.
No, but I mean the hardware is
Actually,
not.
wait, no. Node MCU is a totally different thing.
Node MCU is the hardware. Is hardware.
Yeah, that's the hardware. I got confused with something else. No, it's running Lua. It either does Lua or C++.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you flash it with one of the thousands of.
Yeah, I know
So what is the OS then? That's the language. What's the OS?
It's a microcontroller.
Yeah, it's just like the
There is no OS, is
No.
what you're telling me.
it's just
So
a
you're
little
banging,
microcontroller.
right down on the metal. Yeah. Okay.
That's firmware. It's like your Arduino, basically.
It's a wireless Arduino, more or less.
Really?
Yeah.
You can use the Arduino IDE.
IDE.
Hey there, how you doing?
Hello, gentlemen.
Oh,
It's the Raspberry Pi meeting.
yeah, automation
yeah.
technology.
Yeah, automation. They
We
said
don't want
automation. I
Raspberry
figured it was all the same.
Yeah, have a seat.
I know I'm extremely late. Dropped my daughter off. I live down in Hyde Park. I forgot how long it takes to get out here.
We encourage lateness.
Oh, wonderful.
We-
I'm right at home.
The only problem is that we gotta be out here at 7 o'clock.
Understood.
Jim is the capo de tutti capo, Gestapo timekeeper.
Who's Jim?
That would be me.
That'd be the guy with the wonderful hat.
The guy with
That's me.
the guy with the hat.
Something
he's
called
the
espresso.
enforcer. Yeah.
And there's something called Smart.js for it.
Smart
That
JS.
you can flash onto this thing.
So what's your
Apparently,
name?
it'll just run.
My name is Kareem, like the
It'll run
basketball
whatever you
player.
want.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah? Any relation?
I wish.
Yeah, you apparently can't.
I will show up when they read the wheel and see if I'm on there.
Just to make sure, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, I used to live in California, so I met him before.
California,
Oh my man.
I live in California.
next week.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Good for you. You like just
We're getting over
flew into town for this, or?
No, actually, I have a house in California. I have a house here. So.
I'm pretty sure it's prime real estate right about now. It's hard to get a place up there.
Well,
Depending on where you're at in Cali, it's prime real estate. You know, anything close to Silicon Valley.
So what's your interest? Raspberry Pi?
Yes. I'm a developer, so I'm more trying to get acclimated to the functionality of Raspberry Pi now. I've seen.
Oh, you continue with what you were saying first.
Yeah, I'm more or less. I wanted to connect with a group who kind of, is very well acclimated to how it works, the different processes and functionalities of it. I know it's pretty popular right now. A lot of people are using them for a whole bunch of different things. I got a couple cool ideas that I want to kind of tinker around with and see if I can get it to work. Micro Center is like the only place I see here close that sells them. But there's so many of them, I don't know which one is for which, you know what I mean? Like, what's the best ones to get? So I was hoping I could pick you gentleman's brain and see what you guys know and think about it.
What do you develop?
I'm an app developer,
Like what sort of?
iOS
Oh, okay.
and Android, but more iOS development.
I mean, they're basically many really small. Well, I pretty much just treat them as really small Debian servers, essentially, and spec them that way. I mean, that's usually what you're going to be running on them, or Raspbian, or.
It's pretty much the same.
It's a Debian derivative.
So, we have a demo tonight, which I'll show you. I'm going to proceed with this, Jim. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
You're
Okay.
more than welcome.
Sorry for the interruption, as you
No,
were.
no. This is an opportunity. So, I have two Raspberry Pis here. This one obviously not doing anything. That one is connected to a router which goes nowhere. However, it gives us a local area network here, which you can take your smartphone and you point it at, what is it, TP-link underscore 62 or
It's
something.
the only TP link in range right now.
Pardon?
It's the only TP link in range right now. I think you're
Yeah.
okay.
TP-link
You got it?
underscore 062C.
You got it? Okay, point it at that. Now go to a browser. and enter the IP address 192.168.11.100/index.php.
Index 01 or?
No, we'll do index.php first.
Is that 192.168.100?
No. 192.168.101.11/index.php.
So is this the local server for that?
Yeah. So all right. Now tap scan GPIO and watch what happens.
And that's over here.
What's happening is over here.
Don't watch me. I'm not doing anything.
Okay, and if you click stop GPIO, it'll stop scanning. It steps through all of the pins that are addressable. There are 40 pins on a Raspberry Pi 3, and 28 of them are addressable as either input or output. I've got them all set up as output here. I get a little web server, Apache web server running on the Raspberry Pi, and then I've got a web page, a series of web pages actually, that will allow you to manipulate the LEDs. So if we change nothing except for change index to index 01, you'll get a different web page.
I said not found. So is it /01?
/index01.php.
Oh, okay.
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 You should see something that looks like that. All right. This is a project that we're doing at the school where I teach in San Jose, which is called a tiny home project, and it has a series of 4 winches, and this controls the winches. So, and the winches here are represented by LEDs. So if I click on winch 1 up, you see that first LED turned on. But you're not going to see anything on there. And if I click stop, that LED turns off. Winch 1 down, LED 2 turns on. Winch 1 stop, that turns it off, and so forth and so on. It goes through the first 8 LEDs. So then if we change our PHP there from index01.php to index03.php, you get an array of buttons here, if you will. There's a total of 28 of them. Each one represents one of the pins. So if I click on, say, GPIO 09, you'll see that looking over there, you'll see that is flashing. If I go to 011, that one's flashing. If I go to 13, that one flashes. And if I click the black killer bar across the bottom, everything turns off. So this allows you, without any app, in anything that you can get a browser on, iOS, Windows, Linux, OS 10, Android, anything that's got a browser. You point it at the appropriate wireless SSID, and then you bring up the website, and you can toggle it. So you don't need a special app. Okay, this is a situation where you don't need to write something in Android or write something in iOS or whatever. It's just web enabled. And the way it works is that I have an Apache web server running on the Raspberry Pi. I have a series of websites. You've just been through 3 of them. I have a series of websites, each one of which has PHP code in it, which allows the buttons on whatever device you have to interact with a bunch of little C programs. And I've written a C program for each one of the pins, and then by touching a button, either touch screen or mouse or whatever, I can activate that button, and that activates the C code, well, actually the C executable. It's actually compiled, and so here I'm able to toggle any of these. So if I want to use this as a piece of equipment, I replace the LEDs with a little relay or a transistor that triggers it on or off and allows me to control up to 28 individual devices. This is the output version. I can also pick up input off of each of those pins. Now I can't do that simultaneously. Because at the beginning of the program, you've either got it designated as an input pin or an output pin. But there are of the 40 pins, 28 of them are addressable for controlling whether it goes high or goes low.
Can they control separate LEDs or OLEDs?
Sure. Basically, anything that you can toggle with 5 volts. If you can't toggle it with 5 volts, then you put a transistor in there and you just toggle a base of, say, an N-channel transistor, and you can crank it high or crank it low. But basically, it gives you a switch. And it gives you a remotely accessible switch from smartphone or whatever device you want to use, tablet, laptop, you name it.
I like.
Pardon?
I said I like.
Yeah, and it's relatively inexpensive. The list price on them is what, $35 these days, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole package there, I probably got more in LEDs than I have. I think that whole thing set me back maybe $40, something like that, 45.
Is there a larger one that can run more?
That's the biggest one you've got.
Well, Raspberry Pi 3 is the latest version of the Raspberry Pi. There's also a Zero, which is the $5 version, and that has the same number of output pins, but it doesn't have all the feature set. One of the nice things about this is that it's got built-in wireless, it's got built-in Bluetooth. All of that stuff's available on the board. In order that I didn't embarrass myself tonight, I brought myself an Ethernet cable and hooked directly to the router, but I can hook to it wirelessly. The problem with the environment here is, you will discover if you look at the number of SSIDs around here, there's probably, 40 of them, something like that. It's a pretty noisy environment, to say the least.
Projects just don't like working down here.
Pardon?
Projects just don't like working down here.
That's
Hello.
number G27 at Hotmail.
2G27.
That's pretty awesome, though. I definitely want to get myself acclimated with the Raspberry Pi.
Well, I think it's cool. The thing that I like, I've worked with the Arduino a lot, as has everybody else here, But the one thing that I like about this, the 3 particularly, is that it's got the built-in Wi-Fi and the built-in Bluetooth.
You
And
don't have to add those things.
Pardon?
You don't have to add those things.
You don't have to add them. You don't have to put a shield on the Arduino, because the Arduino has, they call them shields. They're just daughter boards that sit on top of the Arduino. And a lot of times they cost more than the Arduino does.
Unless you cheat and buy stuff from China.
I'm sure of the like.
Well, that's true. We have a lot of fans here of buying stuff in China, where you get, $20 boards for what, $5?
Less than that.
Yeah.
Which site? Not that I would want to cheat or anything.
Well, this is not a cheat.
No, it's not a cheat. I buy a lot of stuff off of eBay.
Oh, okay.
And just
If you go to eBay, you can find pretty much anything that's legal, and maybe some stuff that's not. I don't know.
if you're buying directly from China, though, plan on it taking at least a month.
Yeah, you don't want to do it against the deadline. That's for sure.
You can find. I've found a few Chinese sellers that are here in the U.S. They usually tack a couple of bucks on additional.
Well, a lot of them have started.
Get it.
Yeah.
A lot of them have started putting inventory in the U.S.
Yeah.
because it's a big market for that.
I got an app where I buy stuff from China. You heard of AliExpress?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've bought a few things from there too.
Yeah. You could pay for for it to be expedited.
Yeah. I'm cheap. I do
I'm
the
glad
free
me
shipping.
too.
I do the free shipping, and when it
Me
gets
too.
here, it gets here.
Just remember to put it in queue, otherwise it's gonna come and you're like, what is this?
But
I don't even remember ordering this.
I've had a few of those. What was this? Oh yeah, I remember that project ended 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I got one last week. And I said, what is this? It turned out it was something Gail ordered.
Oh.
If there's the Raspberry Pi A, I guess they're only selling the A plus now, and the B plus,
Are you talking about the 3?
and the 3s. No, the original Raspberry.
Oh, yeah. There's a series of versions of Raspberry Pi.
And
But I think a lot of them have been retired now. You can't even buy them.
I think they're still selling the A plus.
But the earlier versions, the 3 is the first one that has built-in Wi-Fi and built-in Bluetooth.
But yes, what I was going to say was pretty much they're all about the same cost. They're all about between $25 and $35 for the money. Just buy the 3.
Okay.
It's a way better machine.
Can I get that from Micro Center? Do you know?
Yeah,
Yeah. I've seen it on their website, but sometimes they don't have it in stock.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, Pi 3 is going to be getting official Android support.
Yep.
Official Android support, as opposed to unofficial Androids.
Well, it used to be you could load Android in Raspberry Pis. It was
Yeah.
a very dicey proposition.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those like, be aware, stuff's gonna run slow, random shit won't work.
Well, but the other thing that's nice about the Raspberry Pi is the whole thing sits on a micro SD card. So basically, I yanked this micro SD that I've got all this stuff on here out, put another one in and you have a choice of how many operating systems now? Half a dozen, something like that.
At least.
You can run Raspbian, you can run, well, I think you can run just running Linux just very well. Just make sure you have drivers.
Ubuntu.
Yeah,
Ubuntu
the
Mate.
whole series of versions of Linux.
I'm just about to ask you that. Is it one, like where do you have your PHP on? Is it some site that's more secure than others that you would recommend?
This was a demo tonight, okay? In order not to go through a lot of grief, I shut off all the security.
Okay.
Because you run a demo with security turned on, you spend half the evening people trying to figure out, was that key 8.9 or 9.8? So this is all security shut off. Now this thing is a quad-core processor, okay? So
Wow.
so you are, you're capable of doing a lot of stuff on this. The default, I guess you would call it default operating system, is something called Raspbian, which is a Debian derivative. It's a Linux Debian derivative. But what are some of the others that you guys have used?
You can use straight. I mean, whatever. You can use it straight.
Yeah.
You might need to finagle around with drivers a little bit.
I know Ubuntu works on it.
That'll work too. Just
Ubuntu
basically,
is another form of Linux.
basically anything that's got a ARM build,
Yeah.
which at this point a lot of them do. Now, I guess the only thing is that you might need to mess around with drivers and such for the pins, because I guess it's basically, you can basically
But
treat that as a separate device.
I think the drivers and everything are in the repositories.
I think so,
the Debian
yeah.
repositories.
A lot of them already have it. So yeah, basically it's like, I guess the similar things, like generally, since it's already like Linux distro and it can run Apache, basically just treat it the same way you would just about any other Linux server. Just keep in mind it's smaller and the hardware is weaker. Otherwise, treat it the same way.
It's not so weak, though. I got to tell you.
It's not so weak, but again, don't expect it to.
This is a CPU that 15 years ago I would have loved to have. I mean, it's a quad core, runs at what?
1.2?
1.2.
Is it 1.2?
I mean, it's.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
We get spoiled, I mean, look back and I think, God, I remember when I got my P3 or P2 back in the 80s or 90s, and I thought, oh man, is this a screamer? Well,
Basically, in my case, it's like since I do Python stacks, it's like don't expect a dozen workers to run on it at once, and have them all running.
But I have to say that we've demoed here, 3 or 4 people serviced off the website without any problem whatsoever. So, and it's a full-blown Apache. I just did an apt-get install Apache too, and that was it. I'm done.
How many Raspberry Pis can you run simultaneously with each other? Can you do that?
You mean as a cluster or what?
Yeah, as a cluster and with like the different pins or LCDs that you may run, like
will they
interfere with it if you run another one?
No, not at all. It shouldn't.
Well,
as far as
depends on
clustering,
what do you mean by running them together?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're they're all they're basically they're single board computers. They're basically like any other PC. They're just tiny.
how many PCs can you put in a building? I mean, it's the same kind of question, 10,000, 100,000.
If you're talking about expanding your I/O, that's another
subject.
That's more or less what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So the I/O right now, you have 28 addressable pins, and they are digital only. There is one that can be used with PWM, but the rest of them are digital only. There are no analog inputs. If you want to do analog, you've got to have a separate daughter board that goes on the thing. And if you see the hardware, the package conceals the guts. This is called lifting the hood. There's the board in there. Okay.
Thing's got a Hemi.
It's roughly the size of a credit card.
So there's a HDMI connector, which is for video, and we actually showed that last week. And then you have a direct video connector there, and then you've got 4 USBs, an Ethernet. The little slot there, that's where your micro SD goes in, and you can set up as many of those as you want. You can only put one in at a time, but has anybody used a 64? What's the largest micro SD you've used?
I think it'll take. You know what? I'm not sure what it'll take. I'm curious now.
I've seen big arguments online as to what it'll take. I know I used 4 and 8, but that's just because 4 and 8. Well, 8 works. 4 is a real. You got to shoehorn or everything in.
I've used 16 in it, but I've never used anything bigger.
Okay, well, I've got some 64s at home, so you can just, if you want to swap it out,
is generally
it's just
I'm sure if
a
you
naked
want
board with
64,
no SD in there. You pull the SD out, put another one in, the operating system's on the SD.
connected to the
You can
drive.
put all your code on the SD, and you're only limited by how big an SD you want to put in there. And as I say, you've used, anybody use 32?
32 will work. It looks like 64 is the generally accepted limit.
Upper limit?
Yeah.
Okay.
That said, I mean, it's like if you're, I'm guessing that's okay, just because like if you're doing more than 64, you're probably storing data. In which case, like just slap the 16 in there, run the application on it, and throw it to an external drive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we think of 64 gigs is a real limitation, but the reality is, how long ago was it you bought your first 64 gig hard drive? Okay.
I guess generally speaking, if you need a bigger than if you need a bigger than like a 16 gig card, then you're probably storing something you want to archive somewhere anyway.
Or you could have it set up as multi-boot.
True. Yeah,
I just pull the card out. I've got 2 or 3
that-
different cards.
That's obviously the
That's
simplest
it, yeah.
thing to do.
If you're trying to do process control or control a manufacturing line, we need to talk.
Anyone run?
If you're using a PLC now and you want to replace a PLC with something like that, you need counseling. You need to talk.
Yeah, well, I don't know what you're doing. You said you were working on
How old is Docker?
on apps, right?
Yes, I have apps, but
Docker running on a Raspberry Pi.
I'm not. It's not that I'm
I guess
getting
they-
bored with them now, but the ones that I have worked on and the ones that I've done for myself and for businesses, I don't know. It's not that it's getting boring, but I like a new challenge, and this
Okay.
seems like it's more of the. I don't want to say the new craze now that everybody's
You know,
kind of interested in.
I've found it interesting. I do industrial process controls and PLCs and so forth, but I started out back in the old days of wooden computers and Iron Men, but I started out with the Arduino first out of the box, 2005 or whenever it was, and then when this became available, and the seller with me was the fact that you could do Bluetooth and wireless without an external board.
Yeah, the original Raspberry Pis needed a USB device, yeah.
Well, it
We
was
do
the same-
have folders that are used by the people here to put their projects in. For example, he's got a folder, that's Art.
Okay.
Art has a folder and needs to put his code in
Yeah,
there.
I've got to replace that, by the way. Some of that's pretty shabby code, but I've got some new code.
And Leroy's got tons of code. I've got some code for the Arduino
I
stuff.
also got a GitHub repo. Or we got a GitHub group too.
I've sent you an email message. It'll have a link to GitHub.
Okay.
These guys.
You guys got
use
some more open
GitHub.
source stuff on there?
We've just got all kinds of stuff on there, yeah.
Yeah, we have a they don't have, unfortunately, did they finally make GISTs for
I don't think so.
groups? Okay, we have a repo in there that has all our snippets that weren't worthy of a full project.
Hey, Art,
So what are you guys working on now? I know you guys got to be working on something cool here.
the robot that we've been working on,
We got 5 minutes, 5-minute warning, that's our pack.
that up there on
Yeah.
the screen, that's one of those ESP8266 modules that we were talking about. That one's that's the smallest package. It's only got 2 I/O on it, but it's perfect for interfacing to the Arduino or something.
I'll have to get a handful of those. Those are, how much do they cost?
Those are like under $3
Okay.
from China, of course, but
Well, no.
they're about $5 from anywhere in the States, though. So
Leroy does a lot of projects in the club. He's in the moving right now, so he's probably a little
I
slowed
don't do a
down for a
whole lot of
while.
projects right now.
And so I'm gonna, if nobody else has a project, I'm gonna slip in our